It's a brand new day. I'm so glad you're here. And before we get started, we're going to do a couple things. One, I'm going to say welcome to the Road Report. My name is Jill, and today we're talking about shelter. Wednesdays will be shelter, and we're going to focus on this idea of not just how do I want to live, but how do we want to live. And with that, we're going to do 4-4-4. Deep breath in, hold it, exhale for 4. Watch something that's a little inspiring, and I'll see you on the other side. So I wanted to talk about this idea of shelter again as it relates to community. Instead of just how am I going to live, how are we going to live? And I'm going to put this link below. I don't know if you're aware of this, but there's a place in Texas called Spur, Texas, where they were the first community to authorize tiny house suburbs. So everybody could come together and park their little tiny houses in a specific area. And, there's a lot of really exciting things about that. And, just from a very practical perspective, as you get older and you maybe need some help in the house, if you are someone who cleans houses, how much more affordable and practical it would be if there was 4 tiny houses in a row and you spent 2 hours in each versus having to drive long distances. Same thing with home care, same thing with pet care. A lot of really positive advantages. And that just kind of mirrors maybe a trailer park kind of idea. And then I watched the video and I listened to some of the people talking. And what's interesting is the number one people calling Spur, Texas are 55-year-old single women. And I was listening to one of the women, and I'm like, I don't want to live with her there. So it's when I talk about shelter and community, I think it's really, really important to understand what that means for you. And we're so focused on what the house and the structure look like and the land that we're on, we forget that we're also in proximity to other people. And that's a really important thing. And the reason I love being mobile is that I can say, I don't want to live here anymore. I am going to drive away. But I also don't want to have to keep doing that. And so I'm just tossing that out here as something that you can think of today, is that all these really amazing things that people are doing with tiny houses, with trailers, with all kinds of nomadic lifestyles, there's a really cool Earthship home here. Tons and tons of really very fascinating, innovating shelters are being built. But there's 2 parts to that. There's what you live in, and there's where you live. And where you live is really when you have a permanent home. And if you really are going to build a positive community, who you live with where you live is super important. And part of that is getting really clear on your own values. Now, I'm going to throw this out here. I don't know if you'll hear me, but a belief is not a fact. And that is where people really have a big breakdown. So this morning, I really encourage you to sort of think about, as you listen to other people talk and your own thinking, is it what you believe or is it a fact? And when you separate both of those, the thing that makes relationships and community the strongest are values. And values are freedom, but they're also responsibility, where we want to spend our money, how we want to enforce laws and rules, how we want to come together, and what we want to work towards. And I cannot stress this, how important it is to figure these things out before you permanently move someplace. So there's a couple things I'm going to suggest here. One is, don't just move someplace sight unseen, or be flexible knowing that you might leave. Really plan to visit. Spend some time talking to the people around you. But more importantly, get very clear what your values are. And so you can do that a couple ways. You can think about it, and if you need some guidance in that, I wrote another little book, the Survival Solution Workbook, which really, that's all it is. It's a series of questions. It walks you through the big picture ideas, and it helps you hone down and separate out what your belief systems are to what your real hardcore values are. What are the bottom line things that you just can't let go of? And I've gotten a lot of feedback on being on an animal farm and is it cruel, et cetera. And so if those things are really important to you, you need to know about that before you move into a community versus what's happened here when a lot of people have brought their values into an existing community, and there's all kinds of clashing. So that's just something to think about. It's not just shelter, it's the shelter in the community. And as we get older, community is going to be extremely important, because there will be a point where you may not be able to care for yourself. You will need your neighbors. And if it's getting colder, I'm going to tell you, you will absolutely need your neighbors, because you won't be able to do this on your own. So that's just something to think about today. You can get the links below to the Survival Solution Workbook, which will take you over to the website at jillelizabeth.net. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you to my new subscribers. And we're going to close with one more deep breath for the road, as we hopefully will rise with the sun in our eyes, love in our heart, our feet strong on the ground, as together we walk on Survival Road, where we will live free and die wild, my friend, because that's what's best for all of us. And with that, we'll see you next time.